Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. Hope you are well today. Hope it's a payday for you. If you're a bi-weekly or a weekly wage earner, maybe today is the day. Maybe pay some bills, but get out and have some fun, kids. You know, life is too short, death is too certain to just raise kids and pay the bills. And sometimes you have to do that. That's about all you can do. But the reality of it is there's more to life than that. So get out and live it. If not, you'll look back one day and say, where did my life go? I never got to do any of the things I really wanted to do. Unless maybe all you've ever wanted to do was pay the bills and raise kids. I just want a little more out of life. But nevertheless, I wanted to share with you guys, we're going to record today's show kind of in two segments. This is the morning edition. And I'm going to get through this, and then we've got media availability for baseball and the scrimmage. I'm going to come back after the scrimmage and record the final segment. So what you're hearing now is my 10 a.m. voice. What you'll hear later will be my evening voice. And so you probably won't get the show up until tonight or in the morning, but that's where we are. I wanted to begin the show talking about the Max in Meridian. Now, many of you know, I have kind of led a campaign to get Tommy Aldridge into the Max. I'm still optimistic that's going to happen. And I think it's important to be visible, right? I think it's important to, it's easy to sit back and just like lob shots at people and then not support them and then expect them to listen to you. And the world is filled with those kinds of people. Well, that's not me. And so I've been to the Max before and I've toured it. It is an incredible event. Like, forget what happened last night. We're going to get to that shortly. But if you're looking for something to do, not just to kill time, but to learn and be entertained, the Max Theater in Meridian, Mississippi is great. And it's just around the corner from Wadman, so you can go and have the quesadilla of the day and honor Shorty and Gloria McWilliams. Anytime that I'm in Meridian and I have time, I go eat at Wadman's. But last night I was at the Max, the Hall of Fame inductions. And guys, let me tell you this, okay? I grew up in South Mississippi, and there's a lot of good and bad with that, okay? I'm not going to sit here and act like that, we've got it all figured out. But, when I was a kid, it's like, hey, man, we're having this big event downtown, or it's going to be this big event out at the water park. And everybody gets all excited, and you go down there, and what do? It's arts and crafts, and they have like a bluegrass band and a gospel group come and sing. And dude, maybe that's enough for you. Maybe it is. But that's what I was raised on, right? And it was a part of that I always thought to myself, man, we're never going to have anything great. Why can't we do something super cool? And that's one of the reasons I love Biloxi and Jackson is because, I'd get to go see some of my favorite bands play. And I was like, I cannot believe these guys are in Mississippi. Because all I'm surrounded by is all this amateurism. Now, I miss some of that stuff. I'll be honest with you. I miss the arts and crafts, But last night's presentation at the Max was as good as anything that you will see anywhere. Absolutely phenomenal. I cannot oversell it. It was so incredible and so well done. I want to give a lot of credit to Anthony Thaxton. Anthony did all the artwork and all the visualization, and my friend Robert St. John was the MC of the event. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't know either one of them were involved in this until I got there. But Penny and her crew at the Max just did an amazing job. And I went out and spoke to her. I don't know her from anybody. Just knew that she was the director. And I went up and I said, listen, this makes me proud to be a Mississippian. It's like what you'd expect, like in California or something. It was in the Riley Center, and the Riley Center, what an incredible venue. It's incredible. But to go in there and have the opportunity to kind of celebrate the best of us, it was great. And I'll be honest with you, like I've been so excited about going, and then you know how it is the day of the event. You think, man, do I really want to go? Like I'd bought an outfit and that kind of stuff. I wanted to go make a good impression. Go make an appearance. But when I found out that Shelby Foote was being inducted, I said, man, I gotta go. I gotta go. Shelby Foote was a major influence on me as a young writer. Matter of fact, I listened to some YouTube interviews with Shelby Foote on my way to the Max last night. But you get up the day of, and it's like, man, there's so much going on. And then I start telling myself, the portal's done, Steve, okay? We don't have anything pressing. The guys have got women's basketball covered. You got baseball media availability tomorrow. You got no excuse. You got no excuse whatsoever. I had to hustle and get some things done, and I felt so anxious and stressed all day yesterday trying to get everything done, telling my crew, okay, I'm done for today, and then I punch out one more story. And the whole way down there, even halfway down there, I thought, man, I think my time may be better spent, back home, But I was like, nah, I've come this far, I'm going to go. Get down there by myself. Dana couldn't go, she had to run a spa, so no date, no +1. And I walk in, I don't know who I'm going to sit with. I get there a little bit early, trying to find a seat down front. Walk in, and, the next thing I know is like all these people, of course, saying hello. You know how it goes. It's just how life is, right? You don't know where everybody is until you get there. And ran into some booksellers, and they're like, hey, come sit with us. And it was great. And what I mean by that is that last night, it didn't matter about Mississippi State, about Ole Miss, about Democrat, about Republican, about Protestant, about Catholic, on down the line. None of that mattered. We came together as a people, as Mississippians, to celebrate some of the best of us that have accomplished some amazing things in the fields of art and entertainment. And I'm so glad that we have the Max. And yes, I'm going to continue to be a squeaky wheel about Tommy Aldridge. He absolutely deserves to be in. But this is not about Tommy today. This is about an amazing performance, and I had a chance to visit with Mac McAnally a little bit after the performance at the reception, and Eugene Foote, Shelby's son. I got a chance to tell Eugene, how important his dad was to me. And I think that's the most important thing. And my wife says that all the time when we go places. There are a lot of times I'll meet like rock stars and people like that, and I don't ask for a picture, right? It's not for me to go grab something and throw it on Facebook. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I want to have those memories. But the reality of it is I want to tell those people what their work has meant to me. Right? It's not for me to kind of get my 5 minutes with them just so I can come back later and say, hey, I met them. There's no picture of me and Mark Tremonti together. But I had a chance to shake Mark Tremonti's hand over at Iron City in Birmingham and tell him how important his music has been to me. And to me, that is the greater gift. And the Max kind of made that possible last night. And so there's no picture of me and Eugene Foote that I took. Somebody else may have taken one, but I did not take a picture of us together. But I think it's just so important for us to kind of get together and celebrate something significant. Right? There's so many things that you can spend your time on. This is a free event. You just got to RSVP because it's limited availability, limited seating there. But I would encourage you, if you haven't done so, let's be sure that we run through and see the Max. Maybe it's a field trip, for a school or whatever, or maybe it's an opportunity for you. You're just looking for something to do with the kids or with the wife or with friends or whatever. Go see the Max. But be thinking about next year. I have no clue who's going to be inducted next year, but I'm going to go. Absolutely going to keep supporting these people. And it's so incredibly well done. It's so great. It's not like something you'd expect to see from Mississippi. There's no bluegrass band there. There's no arts and crafts. People out there taking clothespins and making alligators out of them and things like that and selling them for $3. There's none of that. It's first class in every aspect. The Max in Meridian. Thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. I've got a hankering for some Bulldog Burger Company. I'm going to satisfy that craving this weekend. Cannot wait. I always look forward to that. Hey, I know I'm going to get lunch here this day. And like that, it's one less thing to worry about. Take the guesswork out of lunch and dinner and just choose Bulldog Burger Company, because everybody with you in your party is going to find something they're going to enjoy. Listen, I don't just eat for survival. I eat for enjoyment. And I always enjoy having a meal at Bulldog Burger Company, whether I eat it there or get it to go. What a great job they do packaging things up when I do have to eat on the go, right? 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive in Star Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Get that chocolate shake to go. You'll be glad you did. I'm thinking pimentology, add bacon. I'm thinking that's the move this weekend. But I got to have the spring rolls. Looking a little peaked these days, you know. Been holed up inside all this cold weather. So we got to supplement the beauty care regimen. Be sure and let them know you heard about us on the Boneyard Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, last night, Mississippi State ladies took Auburn to the woodshed. It's a great thing, right? Needed to get a convincing win. We did. I thought, you know, I was at the event last night, so I had to kind of keep up on social media. But having the opportunity to kind of look back here is pretty impressive, you know. And it's so interesting, too, at the Max. I'm walking around and people are like, hey, Steve, did you see the final score in the ladies? I said, no, I haven't seen it yet. And it's like, oh, we won by 40. And we did. Needed it. You know, needed it. And again, we expected to win this game, but I think maybe we saw perhaps the best of Mississippi State. Bulldogs now 16-5, 3-4 in the conference. I still think we have a chance to finish in the top half of the league. Still think so. Play with the proficiency we did last night, there's a good chance that happening, for sure. So let's break it down real quick here. We won't give you a big recap, but Auburn drops to 10-10 and 1-6 in the league as Bulldogs win 96-56. That's a lot of points against an SEC opponent, but it was a tight first quarter. Bulldogs led by just 2, 15-13. And the second quarter was as dominant as anything that you will ever see in Southeastern Conference basketball play. Mississippi State outscores Auburn 33-4. Guys, the game is over at this point. It's just a matter of what the final score is going to be. It is 48-17 at halftime. It's over, in the words of Vince Carter. Bulldogs come out in third quarter and advance the lead by 10 more points, and then Auburn wins the fourth quarter 14-13 as the Bulldogs empty the bench. Deanna Gaston led Auburn with 26 points in 34 minutes of action. She actually led all scores, but Bulldogs had several players get in the book. Anaya Russell with 15 points, Jerkayla Jordan with 15, Denim DeShields with 13, Medina Okot with 13. Off the bench, Chandler Praylor pitches in 14. And it's a big night. Everybody that got into the game other than one player, Shakira Edwards, scored. And that's always a good night. That makes for a happy locker room. Everybody works hard. Everybody has the opportunity to get out there and do some good things. But the reality of it is they don't always get the same reward, right? That's just kind of how life is. And so when you have a chance to kind of empty the bench a bit and give everybody a chance to play, it makes practice the next day a whole lot funner to facilitate. In that first quarter, State shot 60%, just 6 of 10. But then you look up in that second quarter, it's 63% and then 68%. For the game, Mississippi State shoots 62.3%. You're going to win a lot of basketball games when you're shooting with that level of proficiency. Auburn shot just 34%. They were 3 of 14 from beyond the arc. Bulldogs 8 of 21. Free throws, great for State, 12 of 13. And you look at rebounds, right? That's always a statistic that you want to be the aggressor in. State 44-23. What an advantage there. And I think John Cohen's got an interesting decision to make, and maybe not so interesting. I think we've, last year may have proven to be the anomaly, right? With the Johnny Harris experience there. But, good win for State. And let's kind of look ahead here, too. I believe this team is capable of going on a little bit of a run here. We've got to go to LSU. And that's always tough. Even in the best of times, playing at the Maravich Assembly Center is difficult. Now that Kim Mulkey's kind of calling the shots there. So, ladies, back in action Monday at 7 at Missouri. Be a road game. If you live in that neck of the woods, we'd love for you to turn out and support the Bulldogs. We'll preview that game on Monday's show. Should be a win for Mississippi State. Should be. But, when you start thinking about kind of what's next, for Mississippi State, there's going to be some games that we're not going to have the talent level, but most games we are. Most games we are. And we've had some games too that hadn't shot it really well. Last night we did, as evidence, right, from everything that you've seen, everything you've heard. But it's good to have those games where you have an opportunity to kind of stretch your legs a little bit. It gives everybody some confidence. Also gives you an opportunity to, to kind of spread the love around a little bit. And let's look at the standings here real quick. Again, State still got some work to do here. But LSU 5-0. They've won 20 games in a row. That's going to be a very difficult undertaking going down there. South Carolina 6-0 in the league, 18-1 overall. They've won 13 straight. Vic Schaefer and the Longhorns 5-1. They've won 3 in a row. Kentucky, we got them early on. 5-1. They lose their most recent game. Alabama's 4-2. Ole Miss 4-2. Vanderbilt 3-3. Oklahoma, Tennessee, all right there together. A&M. Mississippi State kind of in that same little pack. Beneath us, Florida, Georgia, Arkansas, Auburn, and Missouri. Missouri 0-6 in the league, and they've lost 6 games in a row, 11-10 overall. That's a game we absolutely have to win. And that's kind of where we are, right? I mean, you've got to be, you cannot, if you're Sam Purcell, you can ill afford to stub your toe and drop a game that you are expected to win. And that's where we stand right now. And again, LSU, we got to go down there. It's going to be tough. It is what it is. But then Arkansas comes here. They're struggling. Alabama comes here. They're a good team. We're going to have to play well, but that's a winnable game. Got to go to Vanderbilt. That's a winnable game. Got to go to Florida. That's a winnable game. It's always tough to win on the road in the SEC. But, basically, our contemporaries are around us. Number 7, Texas. That's a tough one too. But as it stands today, 3 ranked opponents remaining on the schedule, and then we close out March 2nd at Auburn. And based on what you saw last night, you feel pretty good about that. But of course, you never know what these 2 teams are going to look like by the time we get there. Let's flip over to the men's side as Mississippi State will travel to South Carolina. We absolutely destroyed them when we had the opportunity to play them in the SEC opener. It's always a little more difficult to go on the road. That's not a hot take. Everybody knows that. We've got to bring a good effort. I think the matchup favors us. And I think South Carolina's struggling a little bit. But, hey, they're going to come out desperate. They got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Things have not gone well. Everybody kind of sees it for what it is. Let's take a look at what's happened to South Carolina since we were with them, It hadn't been great. 10-9 overall. They've lost 6 in a row. And, again, that includes the 85-50 loss to Mississippi State. They host Alabama and get beat by 20. They gave Auburn a very, very good game at home, though. 66-63. Now, that Auburn matchup is not favorable for really anybody. But give the Gamecocks some credit. Played them on their home floor. Nearly pulled it off. They travel to Vanderbilt. They lose by 3 there. And then go to Oklahoma and get beat by 20. 82-62. And then Florida comes in. Number 5, Florida, and escapes with a 1-point win. And so this is, a hint and a half that they're a much different team at home. Everybody is. But when you look at the fact that they've taken 2 top 5 opponents to the buzzer in Colonial Life, we're going to have to bring a good effort. So anybody expecting us just to kind of show up and go through the motions, you're kidding yourself. We're going to have to bring it. It's a game that I expect to win, but it's not a game. People are going to look up and say, I don't understand what changed. Well, teams evolve over the course of a season. Let's take a look and kind of see what they've done in SEC play, if we can find it. I don't know why everybody continues with this PDF thing. Why can't we just do the XML thing? I don't understand the need for the PDF. Just, ranting a little bit here. But, see, we can't get into SEC play here. And I don't think we can. I don't know. Let's see. with all the technology that's available to us, we don't have to use this antiquated stuff, South Carolina. We don't. I know you're trying to cut corners at times to ensure that you pay for the deficit caused by women's basketball, but this isn't it. This isn't it. It doesn't cost that much. Doesn't cost much at all. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have these numbers. We're not. I thought I was prepared for this, but we're not. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But nevertheless, it's a ball game that we're going to have to bring a great effort. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think when you begin to think about what's next for Mississippi State, lo and behold, we found it. We found it. Here we go. We did find the HTML version. If it'll pop up. That's one thing with these sports websites. There's always something new. You know, always something new. And I don't know that we can toggle between SEC play. We can't. But yeah, part of the deal. So we've got a lot in front of us, and I know it is easy to get down in the dumps. It's easy to start thinking, well, you know, Steve, it's not going to be our year. You know, I remember many years ago when we went to the Final Four, when you looked at where we were early in conference play, did that team look like a team capable of making a run? No. And, of course, people will have some revisionist history and say, oh, yeah, Steve, oh, yeah, I saw it coming all along once we got Dante Jones back. And, you know, you're kidding yourself if that's what you believe. You know, we all go through these, moments of revisionist history. You know, the older we get, the better we were, you know. And that's personally and with your rooting interest. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of part of the deal. But, this Bulldog team is capable, I think, of figuring some things out. We got one of the best coaches in the country. Got the most talented roster that he's had here perhaps ever as a coach. But I just want to, again, kind of draw some parallels here. Not in any way forecasting that we're going to go to the Final Four. That's not what I'm saying. But, looking back at this schedule, we went 26-8 that year. We went 10-6 in the conference. It was a much different deal back then. But, we get into league play. We win in Baton Rouge. That's big. We win in Florida. And you get drilled by Kentucky in Starkville by 18. And then we lose to Alabama. We nip Ole Miss. We lose at Arkansas by 12. And if memory serves me correct, that wasn't a great showing by us. Then we lose at South Carolina. And you start thinking, well, okay, kind of what's happening here with these guys. When you lose, 4 of the first 7, kind of where we are now, right? And so I share that because we kind of found our stride late. And even that bad loss at Oxford that year didn't really mar our opinion other than the fact that, you lose to Ole Miss. But, you get in the SEC tournament, obviously, you win that thing, knock off number 1 Kentucky, and there are still some Kentucky homers out there that, they can't bring themselves to admit that Mississippi State just absolutely smoked them that day. They say, did Rick Pitino throw the game? No. He did. Well, you're going to lose at some point. You got to go ahead and take it down. No. That's just arrogance. That's just one of those deals where you kind of look at it and say, well, how do we explain this away? It couldn't have been that we were the worst team on that day, but you were the worst team on that day. It happens. So anybody that would suggest that Rick Pitino threw that game in hopes of going and winning an AFL championship is just being ridiculous. And that Kentucky team was great. It was. And so was that Mississippi State team. And I go back and I think about that Syracuse and Jim Boeheim, of course, locked us up with the 2-3. But you look up early in that ball game, and it just kind of felt like, hey, we're off and running. We're going to be playing for an AFL championship. And they just kind of locked us down, But I say that to draw the parallel is that 6 or 7 games into the conference slate, you can't really say, hey, this team's incapable of getting out of the first week of the tournament. I think this team is extremely talented. And again, I think Chris Jansen is probably one of the most unheralded coaches in the country in the eyes of SEC fans. College basketball people certainly don't agree. You see it all the time, right? Chris Jansen is a guy that comes up with good game plans. And, it's like I look at this Alabama team. We talked about them. I don't know why we don't have a number next to their name on our schedule, but they're ranked. But when you begin to think about, you go get a win at South Carolina, and that's a noon tip. If you can find a way to get Alabama at our place, that'd be a big marquee win, and then you get Missouri, you start thinking, you can put together a pretty decent run here and push yourself up into the top half of the league. But, man, this league, and you've seen it this week. What was it? Let's see, what's the day? Thursday? What was it, Wednesday night? That all three games went down to the last shot? Is that right? Did you guys keep up with it? I think it's pretty safe to say that there are no easy options, especially on the men's side. There's some women's games, again, and me and the illustrious Hound Dog have talked about this many times before. The biggest variance in all of sports on the college level is in women's basketball. It truly is. I mean, you see scores that are just ungodly. But on the men's side this year, it is completely different. Anybody that comes through the SEC this year is going to be tournament ready because we're going to beat each other up over and over and over again. And I think there is an engagement that goes along with having to play in a league of this magnitude that really makes a difference. We really get prepared in that respect to kind of run through that. I think that's one of those things that, maybe that other leagues have, but maybe not teams 1 through 16. Yeah, and looking back at those Wednesday scores, Florida beat South Carolina by 1, 70-69. Arkansas gets their first SEC win by 3, 68-65. And then, of course, Texas A&M with the big 3 late steals one at Ole Miss by 1. So it all goes down to one play. And I think when you look at, it's not like this was, the top of the league playing against each other. Again, South Carolina's 0-6 in the league and gave Florida, who's 17-2 and ranked 5th in the country, all they wanted and then some. Georgia was 2-3 in the league. Arkansas was 0-5. Arkansas gets the dub. Now, Ole Miss and A&M are pretty much contemporaries, both ranked in the top 20. But it's just kind of a harbinger about all of this. Anybody expecting this league to just be another league when it gets to be in the tournament, I think they're kidding themselves. I really think this league is going to be war ready when it's all said and done. All right, time for today's top 10 list, as always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR. Blair's phone number is 601-500-2344. Let me tell you why you're going to need it. They don't tell you this when you're young, but at some point you're going to need a seasoned mortgage loan originator. Whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, look no further than Blair Chandler. 24 years of experience. Get his expertise and know-how working for you. He can get you to the closing table when so many others cannot. Get that pre-qualification letter from Blair, and you'll really see your real estate agent get extremely motivated. And we have some great ones within this fan base. I like to keep business in the family whenever I can. I want us all to win. I do. But I really want those that cheer for the Maroon and White and buy season tickets and give to the Bulldog Club, Bulldog Initiative, all that good stuff. I like those people to have a chance to win. So let's keep it in the family, and you can start by working with Blair Chandler. All right, let's get to our top 10 list. As I guys mentioned, I was at the Max Hall of Fame inductions last night, and Mac McAnally, part of the deal. We're gonna go. It's not really my thing. I had a chance to visit with Mac a little bit. We have a lot of mutual friends, and just wanted to say hello and congratulate him. Incredibly humble guy, no question about it. You guys know country music is not really my thing, but I thought, hey, you know what? We probably should do a Mac list today. And so we're going to kind of break down, if I can find my list here. I sent it to Roy. There we go. Here we go. He's written a lot of top 10 hits for other people. And Mac is a great performer in his own right. He performed last night a couple of tracks, and it was good. I mean, it's like, we all think we can sing a little bit, and then you hear somebody like Mac McAnally sing, and you hear the flawless delivery of a song, basically up there by himself. We sang along a little bit, but the reality of it is, there's a reason that we're us and they're them. All right, number 10. I remember Steve Wariner was really popular in the 90s. He had a big hit with a Mac McAnally written song, Precious Thing. A lot of that in the world too, right? You love somebody and all of a sudden they become your precious, Lord of the Rings reference there. Number 9, Sammy Kershaw. He's another guy too that I think he's a Tennessee guy. I think that's right. Had a big hit with Southbound, and that's kind of a ballad. There's a lot of people that have written Southbound, right? Allman Brothers did one. It's not that song, but I feel the same way. Like whenever I travel, I'm ready to get back to the South. And one of the things that I want to share too, and I like the Max thing too, guys, we don't have to apologize for being from Mississippi. We don't. And there are some people that act like that, they've, kind of achieved something in spite of being from Mississippi. I think it's the other way around. I think you've achieved something in life because you are from Mississippi, and there are a lot of great things about Mississippi that I don't know that get celebrated enough. The number one thing that I tell people, I would rather be from South Mississippi than anywhere in the world. It's true. And the more that I travel, the more I appreciate this. I grew up learning how to treat everybody, right? It's true. When I traveled out to New Mexico, it's not a very racially diverse community out there. It's not. And so when there is some diversity, they don't always handle it really well. We've kind of grown up cheering for the same schools. Right? We've all kind of huddled on Friday nights at high school football games. And so, as a result, growing up in South Mississippi, I have learned how to deal with rich people, poor people, people on government assistance, people from all walks of life, socioeconomic backgrounds, races, religions. I've learned all of that stuff. And I think it's a gift to have been born in Mississippi, where we have such a collection of talented people, but also to the diversity within our state that allows us to celebrate the best of Mississippi. It's not uncommon for me to go down here to the cafe, and I've got people in there that are very different from me that I'll say, hey, it's Steve. Hey, how are you, Steve? And there are people that I see everywhere I go, and they're my friends. And there's no disclaimer that comes with that. It's like, hey, this is my South Mississippi friend. This is my Jackson State friend. No, these are just my friends. And that's how we were raised. And I know for me, I grew up in a family. My grandmother used to say this all the time, especially when I felt sorry for myself. We didn't have a whole lot growing up. We didn't. And she used to always tell me, Stephen, nobody's better than you, but you're no better than nobody else. I understood the first part of it. The second part, it took me a little while. But the reality of it is growing up in the South, we have a very rich tradition. This is the birthplace of the world's music. Not just America's music, but the world's music. And even though country music is kind of germane to North America, and that's the thing too why I'm so excited about, pushing for Tommy Aldridge to get in. In the state of Mississippi, we have had incredible musicians in every genre, whether it be a blues or country or rock or rap. We all know Ray Sherman and Soulja Boy, right? We know those people. We know Nate Dogg. We understand that aspect of things. And that's the thing I love about being from the South is that by and large, outside of the Egg Bowl side of things, we're all kind of cheering for each other. Speaking of cheering for each other, I remember being a kid, man, riding around with my dad. He put this on number 8. I remember this incredible artist and the purity in his voice. It's Charlie Pride. And he recorded the great McAnally song, I'm Gonna Love Her, on the radio. Now, of course, David Allen Coe recorded a version of this called I'm Gonna Hurt Her on the radio. But Charlie Pride, man, when I think about people that have that perfect voice, like the richness in their vocal delivery, Charlie Pride is at the top of that list for me. Number 7, going back a couple decades, it's T.G. Shepherd, You're My First Lady. I don't know if any of us are running for president, but the reality of it is we're all going to have a significant other of some sorts, and I suspect that there's always going to be one a little more special than the rest. And the thing that I've learned about that is I'm not the love. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Yeah, I think that's a clever song, but the reality of it is that there is sacrifice in every part of this, right? And so to make somebody feel special is very important, and loyalty is a big part of that. All right, number 6, Kenny Chesney. He's going to be on here a couple times. It's Down the Road. Great song, and one of my favorite lines in this song is, her mama wants to know if I've just been baptized in the water or baptized in the blood, right? We grew up in that, right? Oh, well, he goes to church and he's baptized. Has he been sanctified, right? There's all of that. And I can tell you guys this. It's like, growing up in South Mississippi, everybody knows your business. It's true. That's a good and a bad thing. And there's a lot of people that are on record that say that we dated, that we did not. But what's interesting, I remember, man, when I first got out of jail, I'm starting life again. I'd asked this girl out, and then her brother, who was supposedly my friend, went back and told his mom, they're going to go on a date. And I called up there to talk to her to kind of firm up details of the date. And Mom told me she couldn't go out with me because I'd been to jail. And didn't work out. And then about 6 months later, I saw her brother at a party, and he asked me if I knew where to get X. Yeah, it's so funny how that works. All right, number 5. And Mac sang this one last night. It's a song that he wrote and performed, and then Jimmy Buffett covered. And he joked around. He said when Mac said when he recorded, about 4,000 or 5,000 of his friends bought it, and then about 750,000 of Jimmy's friends bought it. It's a song called "It's My Job." And Mac joked about too. When first real job he had outside of music was paving Highway 25, and he wore Chuck Taylors the first day on the job, and by 3 hours in, his shoes are melted to the ground. But I look at that with my job too. It's my job. Right? And I've always kind of looked at that too. And I thought that he made a great point last night. Whatever you're doing, be the best you can be, because that is the best vehicle to get to a better job. Absolutely true. Number 4, the great band Shenandoah. I know so many of you know them. They had the, I guess, what was the big hit? Maybe I don't misquote that. But Shenandoah had some big hits. They covered the McAnally song, 2 Dozen Roses. I don't know that I've ever sent 2 Dozen Roses. I've done a lot of that stuff over the years. I'm a hopeless romantic. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just send 2 Dozen Roses. Valentine's Day is coming up. I'll wait till after the prices go back down to regular prices. Some great floral shops here in Starkville. I've got one in particular that I do all of my business with. Number 3, Sawyer Brown. They've been linked to Mac McAnally for years. He has written and produced a lot of their work. They've had several top 10 hits that Mac wrote and produced. The one that you guys know pretty well is Thank God for You. Number 2, I remember when this came out, I had this album, the self-titled album, and I remember it felt like every song on the album was a hit. It changed a lot because we talk about innovation in music. I think Alabama was maybe true to old country, but there was a modern approach to what they did. When they did, Play Me Some Mountain Music and things like that. So the lyrical content was still very much old school, but the instrumentation was a bit more modern. They didn't use a lot of steel guitars. They used real guitars because they can actually play. Randy Owen, a great guy, Yeah, great track that was actually a Mac song, Old Flame. There's an old flame burning in your eyes that tears can't drown and makeup can't disguise, And he goes, hey, you may all say it's behind you, but it's clear that he stirred up more in you than I ever have. That's a tough spot to be in, right? That's a tough spot. Now you're in love with somebody and you find out they're still in love with somebody else, even if they don't act on it. That's a tough thing, man. Number one, though, and this is a song that he sang last night, and it was so perfect for the moment and the stage in the event. Kenny Chesney covered this song. It's Where I Come From. And I love the part about, painting your name on a water tank, losing track of all the beers you drank. That's all very relatable stuff. That's all small town Mississippi stuff. And I'm sure it's not just germane to Mississippi. It's kind of all Southern. But the thing that I love about Mac McAnally and the music that he has written and recorded and produced for so many other people is there is an authenticity in this. There is a genuine quality to what he does. And again, even with the few minutes that we visited yesterday, you can simply tell he is a very unassuming star, right? And he's won, Country Music Artist of the Year 10 times. And he finally had to go to him and say, guys, let's not do this anymore. Let's change the criteria after he had won it 6 times. And then he won it 4 more times after he told them to stop giving him the award. It's pretty incredible. And that's one of our guys just up the road at Belmont, Mississippi, born over in Red Bay, Alabama. But one of us. And I think the song Where I Come From means more to me today, having been to the event, but also, too, just having the opportunity to celebrate our Mississippiness, if that makes sense. I would rather be from Mississippi than anywhere else in the world. And I am fiercely loyal to this state. And listen, there's a lot of division among our state, and that's going to be the case anywhere. But there are a lot of people that act like that there are problems here that are unique to just Mississippi, and that's just not true. We kind of get to be the whipping boy by some people because we're the punchline of so many jokes. But that stuff doesn't bother me. But when they do talk about Mississippi, they're talking about my homeland. And the truth of the matter is that I think back to Katrina and how devastating that was, and Haley Barbour, on the helicopter, saying this was like a bomb went off, like a nuclear war or something. And I don't remember our people whining. There is a quiet dignity among Mississippians. When things happen, we lean on each other and we help each other. And I don't know that is something that happens a lot of other places. I know neighbors are neighbors. But I don't know a state that could have handled that as well as we did. And that's not to be critical of Louisiana, don't get me wrong. But I think sometimes people forget that Katrina made landfall in Mississippi. But our people just went to work. They got out the trucks. They got out the chainsaws. Everybody got out the mason jars. And everybody traded goods. And everybody took care of each other. And it made me proud to be a Mississippian. So many of my neighbors were struggling. And at the time I was living in Baton Rouge. And every weekend that we didn't have a home football game for Mississippi State, when we were on the road, I would go on the coast. And sometimes even if we had a home game, I'd go cover a game on the coast because nobody from my industry could get to the coast because all the hotels were filled up, with people that were just trying to live life, just trying to start life over again. And so it was almost impossible to get in there. And so I made that trip, and I can tell you, and I've shared with you guys before, every time that I went, I'd have a coach pull me aside, whether it be a head coach or an assistant coach, and say, Steve, thank you for doing this for our kids. Thank you for doing this. Guys, I'm a Mississippi guy. Of course I'm going to do this for our kids. Of course. You go out, you get video, you do some media coverage because, again, it was tough for coaches to get in there and recruit these kids. And so you shine a light on these guys, and that's what happens. And maybe in some small way, we help each other. And so, for all these other people out here that, I could talk all day about this stuff, that have something negative to say about Mississippi, chances are you've never been here. And if you met somebody from here, it's probably somebody that was just passing through. Because if you've never met anybody that's from Mississippi, that was raised in Mississippi, that learned the values of Mississippi and learned hospitality, is not just a motto that we put on the license plate. You're going to remember those people for the rest of your life. True story. How many people have come here and written books and spent time here and fallen in love with our great state? And I can promise you, when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get out of Mississippi. And the more that I travel, the more places that I go, the more people that I meet, I can't wait to get home. Back to where things make sense to me. It's true. And I share that with you from the bottom of my heart. No matter who you cheer for, it's true. At the end of the day, if you need me, I'm going to be here for you, because that's who we were raised to be. I think it's one of the most important things in life, is to be there for each other. Good, bad, or indifferent. And we get so busy sometimes, get caught up paying the bills and, raising kids, and we get so focused on our own stuff, and we should be. But man, how many times have you seen it in our state when something happens, the next thing you know, you got people out there that don't even really know each other. They just know that there's a need, and they want to go fill it. That's what makes Mississippi great. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. I love Campus Bookmart. I love them. They treat me like family. They'll treat you like family, because you know what? We are family. We all live in a maroon state. You may have a few dissenting opinions around you, but the bottom line is Mississippi State is the people's university. Nobody does a better job outfitting you and your family with Mississippi State merchandise and Campus Bookmart. Next time you're in town, go by and see their smiling faces. You may even get a complimentary hug. I always get one, and I don't think that's just for me. But if you can't make it to town, we encourage you to support a Starkville business, because Miss Kathy Brown knows what true maroon looks like. And so when you order Mississippi State merch from them, you're going to get the real deal Holyfield. Right? It's true. Visit campusbookmart.net, and by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that gives you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Okay. I teased this morning over at genespage.com. By now, the news is out. Mississippi State has released their master plan for athletics. Now, there are a couple things that I want to say about this. The timeline on this is not established, because we're in an evolving time. This is basically, and I hate to describe it this way, this is kind of our Amazon wish list, right? So if you want to go click buy now and maybe give a gift of some significance towards one of these projects, it would certainly move it up on the agenda. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's one of the most important things. We're going to need some gifts. And I've read recently, and I say this not out of disrespect, but really kind of out of love. Like, I see people try to say, hey, well, now they're paying for this because they're paying for this through TV revenue. Guys, let me tell you this. The bottom line is this. All that stuff, all that money, like when you hear, the SEC schools are splitting, however many $100 million. Guys, that money's already spent. That money's already allocated in the budget. That's already earmarked for something. We don't have this huge war chest of money just sitting back and we can just go write checks on. A lot of times what we are depending on are donors to kind of give us some seed money to get this thing going. Like you read today, Bo and Nikki McInnes. Bo McInnes, a Mississippi State guy through and through, $2 million gift to the State Excellence Fund. And how many times it seems like every time you turn around, there's a new big gift to the Excellence Fund. That's a big pot. But Zach Selman, athletic department, it's been a good week, right? Now, and before we get into this, I want to touch on a couple other things too. There are a few hands that need to be slapped, okay? And if I step on your toes, I hope it hurts. So we finally got our LED light thing, and again, thanks for everybody that stepped up. Thanks for everybody that was involved. And thanks to Zach Selman for making this happen. This needed to happen. People beat us up on it. Our fans, our players, our coaches deserve an elite game day atmosphere. That's true. We can't just, hey, drive a Pontiac in a Cadillac competition and expect to win. That's not going to happen, you know. And some people out there have kind of been acrimonious about this. And I'm just going to tell you, I don't care who gets credit. I'm just glad that it happened. I'm glad that it's happening. And so when I run across these things, and I noticed that, we had the lights, and then all of a sudden yesterday, the email goes out announcing that there's a rise in ticket prices. And immediately there's some backlash. Immediately. And so we wanted to, and I put this on Gene's page, and I don't know that some people appreciated it, but here's the reality of the situation. We had to flip the roster, which takes a lot of money. We had to go get these LED lights. We had to do something to upgrade our game day atmosphere, and that takes a lot of money. Well, the rent's due now. Rent has gone up. Stage costs go up, our costs go up. And there's some people like, I don't know if I'm going to renew. Let me encourage you, you should. You don't want to sit at home and say, you know what? I wish I'd have been there. When something magic happens, and all of a sudden you don't renew this year and you lose your spot in the priority chart, and next thing you know, when you do renew, you're not where you want to be. And there are a lot of people that have continued to renew their tickets through some very down years because they knew at some point something great was coming. So we can't sit back and say, well, we need to go spend all this money and then expect us to continue to kind of do the same thing, right? Mississippi State is not sitting on a gold mine and being cheap. Everybody's got to share in the expense. It's true. All right, and you've seen, if you haven't, you can go to hellstate.com. It's on the first page, and it's Our Path to New Heights by Zach Selman. And it's kind of, it's a narrative kind of talking about kind of what he thought and some things that we plan to do. And there's so much to this. But I think it's important to understand. I want everybody to understand this. If you don't appreciate anything else I say today, listen to this, okay? We got to take care of football first. Nothing is happening really for anybody else until we get this taken care of. We got to take care of football first. That has to happen. And it kind of all works together, right? You can't do a lot of baseball stuff until you get the football stuff handled. And so item number one on that list, we have Palmero right now, right? It's an IPF. It's a multi-use IPF for baseball and football. Now, Mike Leach didn't want a football-only IPF, so we kind of put a pin in that. But for us to make a jump here, ensure that we have a commitment. And that's what, people always kind of have these disagreements about this. Do we really need this? Yes, we do. And let me tell you why. We have a lot of young men that show up on visits, especially from the transfer portal, and they say, man, this is how the other half lives. Well, they're coming in from Northern Illinois. They're coming in from Western Kentucky or UAB or wherever. And it's like, hey, I didn't have this. This is SEC stuff. Yeah, so, their pool of reference is much more shallow than some of these guys that we're recruiting from the high school ranks, and some from the portal too. And so they're going around and visiting LSU and Alabama and Mississippi State and South Carolina and other places. And it's like, hey, the people at State are great, but I don't know if they're really committed to winning there. They don't have this, they don't have that. So now all of a sudden you can check this box. Okay, we got a football-only IPF. It's true. That's priority one. And I've got that from Ultimate Authority. Priority one is getting the IPF done. And guys, I'm going to tell you, even if we had the money today, it's going to take years to get that thing done. Okay? So you don't need to be in any hurry and asking everybody on the message boards, hey, what's less than the IPF? Guys, it is a long way away. It's probably the closest thing of the major enhancements, but it's not going to happen next year. Now, if somebody steps up and gives us the money, maybe a little different, right? But the reality of it is once we get the football-only IPF done, and again, we're talking years, not months, Well, then we can renovate Palmero, and one of the things that I'm told that we plan to do there is move the pitching lab and expand the pitching lab into Palmero. Right now it's part of Dudy Noble. It's one of those, it's an area right now that what we'll eventually do, according to the plan, is we're going to put, a new guest locker room in there. And then we'll move the pitching lab, a new expanded pitching lab with the latest in analytics and latest buzzers and whistles and all that good stuff into Palmero. We're going to have a lot more room to work when Palmero is, baseball and softball only, right? So you'll have the opportunity, not that Coach Ricketts and them need softball. She's got her own practice complex there, but there's always some use there. But when you get football out of there, baseball can kind of do some things in there that they have not been able to do before. So in order to do anything for baseball, we got to get this football stuff handled. So I've seen people celebrating on social media. It's like, hey, the dude is this, and now the greatest ballpark in America is about to get renovated and do this. Don't hold your breath on that. That's not saying it's not going to happen. But what it is saying is that nobody needs to be in any hurry. Now, again, if you want to write the check and kind of get some things rolling, that'd be great. But, I don't know the full timeline of it, but it's like one of those things, we're probably talking 10 years to get everything on this list done. Of course, there'll be things that'll come up and things that'll go away. There'll be things that maybe we've found another way to kind of get around it. But here's the Dudy Noble part of it. And it's listed like Dudy Noble program needs, okay? Now, some of these are going to create a little controversy, okay, especially when we get to Dudy Noble. Create a new, larger training room, that's sure. Yeah, and that's not that difficult to do, right? But it's important. Widen the main concourse along the first baseline. I'm good with that because those of you that come to ball games, even when it's not an overflow crowd, it's tough sometimes kind of getting through there. Add a year-round restaurant for revenue-generating opportunity. I think it's a great idea. It's a great idea. But again, that's something down the road. The question that I have is this restaurant at Dudy Noble, is that revenue earmarked just for baseball, or does it just go into the Excellence Fund, right? One thing that we'll see. Enhance student section to continue strong traditions. And, that's, if you've noticed, man, our students do such a great job. A great job. Not just at football, and even though we've left at times at halftime, at basketball, and certainly at baseball, we pack it out. And we need to expand those areas, and that shouldn't be extremely expensive, but there will be some price associated with that. Add additional food and beverage to accommodate overflow crowds. That's pretty much every SEC weekend, right? Create general seating areas at existing berms. And that's one of those things right there that I know there's going to be some blowback about, because the people that sit on the berms regularly love the berms. There is a community out there in that right field berm area. They love each other. They don't mind getting close. They get blankets. They get chairs. They look out for each other. And so now we're thinking, hey, we'll have some general admission seating there. And we badly need general admission seating. And, one of the things that, when we first did the berms, it was a little bit of a cost-cutting measure. But we didn't realize how much people were going to love them. And so that's something right there that, yes, we need to address the general admission seating, but I know the berm dwellers are going to be very upset about this and very vocal. I get it. I understand it. You've taken something and made it your own, and you've built a little bit of a community out there, and you don't want to lose that. And it wouldn't be the same with seating there. I think we'd all agree. Now, that said, there are a lot of people out there that are, single serving game fans, maybe once or twice a year. Those folks want to bring their kids to a game, they got nowhere to sit. And then kids get tired, mom gets tired, nobody has a good time. It's true. So you need to have an area to accommodate those families. And not everybody wants to go sit on the berms. right? And so there's a trade-off with all of that. And so that's something that, it's going to have to be handled. Convert existing press area into suites and add additional suites along the third baseline. Hey, we are absolutely in favor of that because of the one thing, and again, it's first world problems for us. While the press room area is nice, the vantage points in there are terrible if you don't sit on the first row. And so you take that area, make some more suites, make some more money, and find us somewhere else to sit. That'd be great too. Add a service elevator from field level to main concourse. That's probably needed too. Add new suites down the first baseline. I think everybody's good with that too. And that would probably butt right up against that general admission seating. Add new coaches' offices and support spaces at suite level along the third baseline. I can assure you nobody's going to be upset about that. Add new loft building in the left field corner. That's something we've talked about for a long time. Additional needs. Create a destination spot for fans and tourists at the iconic Duty Noble Field, allowing opportunity to generate revenue with a 365/7 restaurant. That's the museum that we've been talking about for a while. Kind of like a little gift shop and things like that. That's something that is still, being discussed. But what do we do? But it's something that we've talked about for a long time, that we need a baseball museum. And I think most of you would agree with that. We also need at some point to have an M Club actual Hall of Fame building. I don't know how often that would get used, but I know on game day, you get there early, walk in the air condition, walk around, check out some old Mississippi State baseball memorabilia, maybe buy you a couple of shirts and things like that. I mean, it would be something that could be really cool. And then there's a lot of technological stuff we got to do to upgrade the Wi-Fi, things like that. All that stuff's got to happen. So those are some things. But, there are amenities basically, for every sport. That's just kind of part of the deal, right? And everybody's going to have a say, and everybody's going to have an opinion about it. And, of course, there's some people out there that don't think we should spend any money on baseball. Let me tell you this. We're going to spend money on baseball because it's one of the things that makes us great. It's our identity. But nothing is going to be spent on baseball right away. Nothing's happening right now. I don't think people understand. We talked about this on the show some time ago. There's a lot of change that is happening in college athletics. And so in many respects, kind of the arms race for facilities is kind of over. You don't have everybody out here building water fountains and all that kind of stuff. There's just, it's more practical now. But so much money is going into player retention and acquisition. We've got to be able to do a little bit of both, though. But we've got to take care of football first. We just renovated the hump, and there's some things we need to kind of do there. As Selman says, a few punch card items that we kind of finish up there. But we have to take care of football first because football takes care of everything else. And so you get the IPF, you get the game day atmosphere, you get the sound system fixed, you raise ticket prices, and I just, I'll go and prepare you. I think we're going to have a better year this year. You're probably going to see them go up next year too. Just my opinion. It's not based on anything other than my experience. But a lot of people have come out and said, hey, Steve, why are we raising ticket prices after a 2-10 year? Well, it's just the price of poker in the neighborhood in which we live. It's not that we're trying to run you out, and I see that stuff on Facebook. They're going to drive a lot of loyal fans out. That's not what anybody wants. And I understand a lot of people's loyalty is tested, especially when we go 2-10, right? And we hadn't won the Egg Bowl since 2021, right? We lost 3 consecutive Egg Bowls. It sucks, or 2022, whatever it was. You lose count when you're not the one winning, right? But this is really more about what we need to do to get ahead competitively. That's one of the most important things to understand. But, there's a lot of things on the football side that we're going to do to ensure that Jeff Lebby is a winner here. We're going to give him every resource he needs to compete and to win as a recruiter and as a coach. And then the revenue that's generated from that will kind of trickle down to everything else. And one of the things that Zach Selman told me some time ago is, you need gifts. You need people to give you gifts. It's like, hey, we need to build an IPF. Okay, great. Well, who's willing to write us a check to kind of make this happen? Whose name can we put on this building? Rather than, hey, let's just go write a check. Again, I think about the soccer field. That's a great naming opportunity. Right now, it's just called the Bulldogs Soccer Complex. Years ago, we had the, quote, athletic field, and then we named it Scott Field, in honor of Don Magruder Scott, the university's first Olympian. But just about everything else that's been named has been named in recent years after a donor. And so there's so much of that. There's so many opportunities, that are available. But college athletics is expensive, and it's getting more expensive by the day. And again, when you see these big numbers roll in, it's like, hey, they're getting, $75 million. And that money's already accounted for. It's not like, hey, we got $75 million we weren't expecting. It's not like we got a bonus. We get a check every year from the SEC based on bowl revenue, TV revenue. We already kind of have a good idea what that's going to be from year to year. And so you budget with that in mind. It's not like, okay, well, we were expecting $368 million, we got $370. Well, now I got $2 million to work with. Not $370 million. And again, I think there are a lot of people out there that love Mississippi State that really don't understand, the economics of it all. And that's not to be disrespectful to you, but you need to understand, we didn't just have this check show up. Well, why do you think that Bo McInnes and his family are giving us $2 million? If we had all this extra revenue, we wouldn't be needing the gifts, And every time I turn around, I'm hearing more about, hey, another 7-figure gift's coming in. And we don't announce them all. Some people don't want the notoriety. Some people don't want, I just want to give privately. And we'd like to be able to publicize all those gifts. And we're glad that they're coming. And we need more. And I understand. Fans are being asked to do more than ever. There's no questions about it. But the reality of it is, in order for us to get ahead, we're going to have to do some things to compete. And every one of them is going to require money. If that's facility upgrades, that's replenishing, the coffers when it comes to NIL and things of that nature. Every bit of that's going to cost money. And I hate it. I wish, there are a lot of fans out there. It's like, Steve, I just can't afford to give any more than I can. You know what? Thank you for what you do give. And maybe you hadn't heard that in a while. A lot of people want to make you feel guilty. And, sometimes all you can do is just try to, you try to get a ticket on StubHub and sit in the upper deck, come to one game a year because you love Mississippi State, and that's all you can do. And you know what? Thank you. Thank you for your support of Mississippi State sports. And I understand maybe it's not your place. And if you're like me, you're like, hey, if I had all this disposable income, I'd give more than I probably should. But thank you for what you do. And I said this on the show before, I appreciate every fan we have, even the ones that don't agree with me. Anybody that puts that Mississippi State logo up on their social media profile, as long as you don't get out there and act like an idiot, anything that people do to advance the brand. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and this may be a little bit controversial too, I see people sometimes to be so incredibly critical of us, our older generation, our silver-haired dogs. And let me remind you, those people have endured more misery as it relates to Maroon than you could possibly imagine. And we are a younger fan base, and I'm in the middle age, I guess, and some people would say I'm an older guy. I guess by college age standards, I am an older guy. Obviously, I've had 4 college kids, but it takes all of us. And there are people that will say, well, their antiquated way of doing things. Let me tell you this. Everybody my generation or older that has given money to Mississippi State is giving so out of the love for Mississippi State. It's not like we just said, hey, I want to give you this money, and then you got to give me this, you got to give me that. People just give gifts. There are very few people that expect anything in return other than maybe a little bit better seating. These people were around when we didn't even have an upper deck at Davis Wade Stadium. They helped pay for us to have the upper deck at Davis Wade Stadium. They helped pay for the new Dudy Noble Field. They helped pay for the renovation at Humphrey Coliseum. And so when you come out both barrels blazing, shooting at those people, you're shooting at people that have carried the freight and paid the freight for what many of you can't. And rather than be critical of them and suggest that somehow, hey, these people are holding us back, guys, these people are the only reason we are where we are today. And so, yeah, there are some people in Starkville, and not just necessarily connected to Mississippi State, that want to keep Starkville small. They kind of like our little town. I love our little town. But you know what? I'd be okay with us having a Cracker Barrel. I'd be okay with us bringing in a Topgolf or something like that. I'd love to have more to do here, as you would. And there are some people that still want to remember Starkville when they used to ride their horses up and down Highway 12. All right, well, that line of thinking needs to kind of die off, right? The flip side of that is there are a lot of people, too, that, they want more, but they're not in a position to give more yet. And I respect that, right? That doesn't mean that your voice is not valid just because you can't write a big check. Everybody's voice matters. It's just not your time yet. And there are some people out there that give nothing but have the most to say. There's some, we talk about, Steve, we probably need some of these people to retire, just kind of move on. There's some of you that need to learn your place. Some folks out there may need a switch, right? We talk about being from South Mississippi. And so there has to be, in order for us to be successful, there has to be some sense of unity and certainly an undying level of respect. And so for you to say, hey, these people here, these old people, these older people that are holding us back, they're not holding you back. They're paying the way. And again, so many of them, they didn't have a relationship with Zach Selman. It's not like, hey, well, now that Zach's here, I'll give $2 million. No, it's just they love Mississippi State and they understand the crisis that we're in. And they've done a good job putting themselves in a position to be able to help us out financially. And how many times have we had those families pay our way when we couldn't or we wouldn't donate ourselves? So one day your time is going to come. This is not it. But someday you're going to be one of those top 100 donors. One day you're going to be one of those top 500 donors. And then you're going to have a younger generation of fans saying that you are the ones holding us back. That's just a rite of passage. It's the circle of life, right? And it's not just germane to athletics. But we have to love each other, and we have to put our differences aside and focus on what is most important, and that is the success of Mississippi State. And so I just encourage you. It's one of the things that really irritates me. People say, oh, tell me you're a geriatric. Tell me you're a spoiled brat without telling me you're a spoiled brat. That's not good for the team. That's not good for the program. So it's like, hey, this guy gave this money, and let's forget about that. He disagrees with my opinion about what we should do with the sound system, so he must be an idiot. I got some friends of mine that have given a considerable amount of money to Mississippi State, and if you had lunch with them, you'd understand how sweet a person they are. They may not be the smartest, but I can tell you this. They're not out there rattling cages and telling Dr. Keenum, let me call plays and things like that, let me make decorating decisions. They're not doing that. And my hope is that we can kind of put those things behind us. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle area. If you're bringing a large group to town, rather than go out there and get 5 and 6 hotel rooms, just rent out the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Have everybody under one roof. 6 bedrooms, 2, soon to be 3 baths. It's a great place. I've stayed there. Our family was there for New Year's, had a great time just being together, kind of lounging in that big living room area, watching some football, some great playoff football. We got out there around the fire pit, We put that full-service kitchen to use. We didn't use the wet bar, but you may, right? That may be your thing. But the reality of that is there's just so many great amenities available to you. Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Their Facebook page will auto-populate, and you can go look through the pictures of the facility and see for yourself. Also, when you Google, some booking options will come up. You can book through Airbnb and VRBO if you want. But if you want to save some money, which I'm always in favor of, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's beautiful Steve Robertson and the number 10, BSR10, and get 10% off your stay. You could pay more, but why, right? Just by listening to this show, we're making it easier for you to get everybody together and have a great time. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. Conveniently located right off 182 just past the Highlands. You'll be so glad you stayed there. You can do your tailgating right there. Super cool. Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. Okay. We had baseball media availability today, and Stone Simmons and Noah Sullivan represented the players. I think it says a lot about Noah Sullivan that he was the one that was selected. Maybe a little bit unheralded as a portal recruiting guy. You know, got to hit 18 bombs last year. But the reality of it is it could have been a number of guys. Could have been Ace Reese. Could have been Jacob Pruitt. Could have been, several guys. But instead, it was Noah Sullivan, which I think says a lot about his personality, there's a lot of color with him for sure. He's a guy that likes to have a lot of fun, and I asked him, specifically about, I've been told that he is a guy that's a bit of a card, and he has kind of the Raleigh Fingers mustache going right now, which I love. But he goes, baseball's hard enough, man. I like to keep the locker room loose. We got to go out here and do a great job. And Stone Simmons, most people that have been in college as long as Stone are doctors. That's a joke. But his love for Mississippi State has kept him here. And I think Mississippi State's love for Stone has also kept him here. And what a great ambassador. A joke with Mike Nemeth. Because, Stone is the last tie to the 2021 College World Series team. He goes, yeah, I think I remember that. I said, yeah, because I said the same thing last year. Where does Stone fit in all this? Is he a weekend guy? Is he bullpen guy? Is he a closer? I don't know. But he's had a jump in velo, and that's exciting. Now today, we had Chris Simona speak too, and I don't know that we learned an awful lot. He addressed a lot. Again, there is a glut there at second base. And, I want to run down just real quickly here. We had two scrimmages today. We had 1 7-inning scrimmage today, and it's inter-squad. And so one group, and I think if we were to play a game today, the majority of this group would be your starters. You had Hunter Hines at first, Sawyer Reeves at second, Dylan Cupp at third, and Garrick Fry was at third. Cupp was at short, Fry was at third. Chance was in left, O'Brien in center, and Stevens in right, and then Jackson Owen behind the plate. Now, Jackson Owen is a guy that struggles at times controlling the running game, but he is maybe your best offensive catcher right now. I still think Ross Highfield, I'm a Ross Highfield stan as a former catcher. I think he is our best all-around catcher. I think he's our most athletic defender, but also, too, a guy that's got some real pop. This is a guy that hit 9 home runs as a freshman. Hit 3 in one game against Lipscomb, you may recall. But I expect Ross to be behind the dish on first pitch, and I think Ace Reese will be at third. But by and large, I like this lineup. Now, Lucas Buckner, of course, playing a little bit too, a freshman. The outfield with the other group, if I remember correctly, Aaron Downs was in left. Reeves Reynolds was in center. And then Landis Davila was in right field. And then Reed Stallman at first. Kind of moving some people around. Ethan Pulliam swung today too. He's in the mix there. You're moving some guys around. But I think eventually what you're going to see is the 9 that I said. Reed Stallman's a guy that can play some in left. Downs can too. We'll see how things go. And Stallman could also be, left-handed DH. And Sullivan's a guy, too, that can pitch a little bit. But we've got options, and like Lim said, you don't know who you can trust at this point. Last year you thought you had depth, and then we get deeper into the year and you didn't. Not to mention, this time last year, basically you had 3 middle infielders that you felt like you could count on. Amani Larry was going to be your second baseman, a leadoff hitter, and you weren't quite sure what you were going to do with Dave Mershon. Dave was probably going to play short, and Cup probably was not going to play. Well, Dylan Cup is one of the best defensive shortstops in the country. And so Amani struggled a little bit defensively. Mershon, if you recall, the last scrimmage of last January, we had Dave Mershon pull up with a hamstring injury for the second straight year. So when he came back, Amani goes to DH, Mershon goes to second, and Cup goes to short. I think that says a lot about Dylan Cup's defensive ability. Dave Mershon, you know what he could do defensively at short. And the fact that a true freshman, Dylan Cup, was playing there and Mershon got bumped to second says a lot about the range, the arm strength of one Dylan Cup. So I don't expect any drop-off at shortstop because you know how great Dave Mershon was. I think Dylan Cup is as good or better defensively. He's got a little more range because he's got a little more size. And now you think about all of the names that you have in the middle infield right now. You have more depth in the middle infield now than maybe you have at any point in Chris Simonis' tenure at Mississippi State. You got Gatlin Sanders in the mix at second. There was one of our leading hitters in the fall. You got Ethan Pulliam, who was the starter late in the year last year. And that's a guy, too, that really just kind of coming into his own. Then you've got Sawyer Reeves, who played basically first-team shortstop in the fall, but now that Dylan Cup has been completely released, is 100% go, well, now Reeves is at second. And so, Garrick Fry's a guy that can play some at third, play some at second. And so you have some depth that you didn't have before, really at all the positional spots. How many times last year did we get into a bad situation and a guy began to kind of struggle offensively and you're like, man, we need to sit that guy. Well, who do you put in? Well, anybody. Well, that's what got us where we are. Nate Chester is a great glue guy, a utility guy, kind of a Tanner Leggett type guy that can play third, a little bit of short maybe, play some at second. And it's good to have a guy like that because if you have a guy that needs a day off, you can plug that guy in. And listen, Nate's not a starter, but Nate's a guy that loves playing baseball, a guy that loves playing at Mississippi State. He's happy to have whatever role he can get on this team, and you have to have some people like that. I think offensively, we're going to be really good. Now, I thought that last year too. And the difference between this year and last year is I just think there's more pop in this lineup. Connor Hyzak was an X factor last year, and I had this discussion with my son Ani earlier. We're talking about the offense, right? We felt like Connor Hyzak was going to be really good. Well, we didn't know. He didn't get a lot of at-bats his junior year here. Moves into the starting lineup last year, and now he feels like, man, that's a big hole we got to replace. But you had Connor and Hunter and Dakota, but you never had everybody hot at the same time. Right? 1 week, Connor would carry us. The next week, Hunter would carry us, and Dakota would carry us. You never could really get a semblance of a lengthy lineup that struck fear in the hearts of pitchers. And I think that's where Ace Reese changes the dynamic a little bit. Sawyer Reeves, a very, very polished veteran player. Really looks good in the box. Can take the breaking ball the other way, has a little pop, probably a 10-home run guy. And then you begin to think about Dylan Cup, who was just really kind of coming into his own offensively when he got injured. And so that's a guy, too, I think that'll make a big jump this year. Again, we know what he's got defensively. Really no question about it. I won't be surprised you look up midway through the year and people are talking about Dylan Cup is one of the elite shortstops in the Southeastern Conference. And there's always great shortstops in this conference. I just don't know many guys that handle it all as smoothly and easily as Dylan Cup does. I think that's important to understand. But again, you think about Ace Reese, who has All-American potential, and he's not draft eligible this year. He's going to have 2 years. But that's a guy, if he can handle things at third defensively, you got a chance to really do some good things with him. He could be another double-digit home run guy. So, again, you start working through this, right? Ross Highfield behind the plate could be a double-digit home run guy. Hunter Hines at first, you know what he can do. Sawyer Reeves at second could be a double-digit home run guy. Dylan Cupp, I don't know if you can get a dozen home runs out of him. But he's certainly a guy that you expect to be able to kind of handle his end at the plate. Then you think about Ace, and then you kind of run through the outfield. Nolan Stevens is a guy that could be a real dude too. But I'm sitting here looking at Dylan Cupp's stats right here. So Dylan Cupp, Game 1 of Mount St. Mary's. I guess we'll back up even further. We'll go to Georgia Southern, right? Because remember he started. And he went buckshot the first 3 games. Started all 3 games, had 9 at-bats, didn't get a single hit. He did have 3 walks in Game 1. And that's it. Then he gets his first hit against Austin Peay, goes 1 for 4 in that game. Gets another hit in the second game. So, 7 games into the season, he's hitting 8 games into the season, he's $160. That's it. And then all of a sudden, things started kind of changing a little bit. Got a couple of hits against Jackson State, kind of got him going a little bit. He has a hit against Mount St. Mary's. Then he has a game where the hitting streak is snapped. He gets another hit. Now all of a sudden he's hitting 277. Hit against Southern Miss, and then gets 3 hits in the weekend against Evansville. He's hitting 278. A hit against South Alabama, he's up to 282. And then tailed off just a little bit late there. But he was hitting about 260. And so his average jumped almost 100 points over that stretch. And gets a little bit banged up. Comes back, plays a little bit against Missouri. But I've got all the confidence in the world in him. And I think you should too. And you say, well, Steve, it's all going to boil down to pitching. And you're absolutely right. It is. But if there's anybody besides Chris Jans on this campus you can trust, it's Justin Parker. And I think Justin's got more pieces to work with this year than he did last year. You remember this time last year, people are like, man, I hope Parker can kind of round, Nate into form and kind of keep him healthy. We didn't know what we had with Cal Steven. We knew Gerangelo had lost his confidence. And then Gerangelo ends up being a dude. Cal Steven ends up being a dude. Nate Dome ends up being a dude. Tyson Harden ends up being a dude. And you didn't expect anything from Tyson Harden last year. And now guess what? He's in pro baseball. He's playing for money. Tyler Davis was the guy that was kind of on a scrap heap of college baseball. He's playing for money. And all of that can be attributed to their hard work and Justin Parker's leadership. We had 8 pitchers drafted last year. 8. And I said to Mike Neiman, I said, Mike, I think we just got more pieces on the back end this year. He goes, you remember how many guys? We had 5 relievers drafted last year. We did. And I think this group is more talented than the group you had last year. There's a lot to work with. And so we'll see how things go. And we'll have scrimmages on Saturday and Sunday. So come back Monday. We'll have a chance to talk a little bit about men's and women's basketball. Reminder, early game against South Carolina tomorrow for the men. Ladies, game on Sunday. But come Monday, we'll have plenty to talk about. Recruiting is kind of slowing down a little bit. No unofficial visitors scheduled for this weekend at Mississippi State. Give everybody a chance to kind of take a deep breath. We'll continue to work through these late offers and or I guess early offers, the latest of the early offers, and we'll do our best to update you and get you quotes on what these kids are thinking about Mississippi State. If you hadn't done so, go to DutyNobleBook.com and you can order a copy of The Dude, a signed copy of The Dude. All my sports titles are there. You can get those too, along with When the Bottom Falls. If you're a person in recovery or you know somebody in recovery, or you just like an underdog story, or you know somebody struggling with chemical dependency, very transparent book about what it took for me to get sober and what it's taken for me to stay clean and sober. And we'd love for you to come float with us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. Been a busy day today. I think we've had 13, 14 floaters today. We got room for you too. 662-268-7601. And always come join us over at genespage.com. Right now, 30% off the annual subscription rate. Make sure that you're the most up-to-date and most well-knowledged fan within your circle of friends. How about that? Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.